Sarah Chen had always dreamed of owning a piece of history, but she never expected history to own a piece of her. At 29, she'd finally saved enough for her first house, a stunning 1942nd Victorian on Maple Street in Millbrook, Connecticut. The price seemed too good to be true. $180,000 for a house that should have cost twice that amount. The realtor, Janet Morrison, had been unusually eager to close the deal. "The estate just wants it gone," she'd explained, fidgeting with her keys. Dorothy Walsh lived here for over 70 years before she passed. No relatives, no complications. Clean sale. Something in Janet's tone suggested there was more to the story, but Sarah was too excited about finally becoming a homeowner to ask too many questions. Millbrook was the kind of town where neighbors still brought casseroles to newcomers, and everyone knew the mailman's name. The Victorian sat proudly among mature oak trees, its original hardwood floors and vintage tile were perfectly preserved. Dorothy had clearly loved this house, maintaining every detail with meticulous care. Sarah spent her first week unpacking and getting acquainted with the house's quirks, the way the kitchen faucet had to be turned just so, how the front door stuck slightly in humid weather, the way afternoon sunlight created rainbow patterns through the original stained glass window in the stairwell. It was during her second week, while measuring the master bedroom for furniture placement, that Sarah noticed something odd. Her tape measure showed the bedroom was exactly 12 feet wide. But when she stepped into the hallway and measured the exterior wall of the same room, it measured 15 feet. 3 feet of space had simply vanished. Sarah stood in the hallway staring at the wall and doing the math again. She wasn't imagining it. The bedroom ceiling was also lower than the adjacent rooms, creating an awkward transition that she'd initially attributed to settling or renovation work. But now she wondered if there was something more deliberate about the architectural inconsistency. That evening, she knocked methodically along the bedroom wall, starting from the corner near the window and working her way toward the closet. Most sections produced the solid thud of plaster over wood lath, but one area, about 3 feet wide, sounded distinctly hollow. Her heart began to race as she examined the wallpaper more closely. The pattern was slightly off in that section. Roses that should have aligned with the neighboring strips were shifted just enough to notice if you looked carefully. The paper also appeared newer, as if it had been replaced or patched. Sarah ran her fingers along the edges and felt what seemed like a vertical seam hidden beneath the floral pattern. Sarah spent that entire night researching hidden rooms and secret passages online. She learned that many houses from the 1942nd had built-in hiding spaces, sometimes for valuables during wartime, sometimes for bootlegging operations during Prohibition's final years. The internet was full of stories about homeowners discovering forgotten spaces behind false walls. The next morning, she called her friend Mike Rodriguez, a contractor who'd helped her with the initial house inspection. Mike arrived within an hour, bringing his stud finder and a small camera designed for looking inside walls. "You're not crazy," he confirmed after running his equipment along the suspicious wall section. "There's definitely a void here, and look at this." He pointed to a small section of baseboard molding that seemed loose. When he gently pulled on it, it pivoted away from the wall, revealing a small metal lever hidden in the space behind. Sarah held her breath as Mike grasped the lever. "You sure you want to do this? Sometimes secrets stay hidden for good reasons." "I have to know," Sarah whispered. Mike pulled the lever, and they heard a soft click deep within the wall. Suddenly, a 3-foot section of the wall swung inward on hidden hinges, moving silently despite what must have been decades of disuse. Cool, stale air rushed out, carrying the scent of old paper, lavender sachets, and something indefinably feminine. Sarah peered into the darkness with her phone's flashlight. The hidden room was about 8 feet deep with a slanted ceiling that followed the roofline. It wasn't just an empty storage space. It was a carefully arranged sanctuary that someone had clearly visited regularly. Against the far wall sat a small wooden writing desk, its surface covered with neat stacks of papers tied with faded ribbon. A simple wooden chair was pushed up to the desk, as if someone had just stepped away for a moment. On the wall above hung several black and white photographs in small frames, and a woman's dark blue coat still hung from a wooden peg near the entrance. Mike whistled softly. This isn't just hidden storage. Someone spent a lot of time in here. A small suitcase sat in the corner, as if packed for a journey that never happened. Next to it was a wooden crate filled with what appeared to be baby clothes, tiny and yellowed with age. Everything was covered in a fine layer of dust, but remarkably well preserved in the dry, cool space. Sarah approached the desk reverently. The stacks of papers were letters, dozens of them, all written in the same elegant feminine handwriting. None appeared to have been mailed. There were no stamps, no postmarks, no addresses. They were all addressed simply to "My dearest William." The photographs showed a young woman with dark hair, styled in 1,952nd victory rolls. She was beautiful, with expressive eyes and a sad smile that seemed to hold secrets. In every photograph, she was alone, no family, no friends, no companion of any kind. At the center of the desk lay a leather-bound journal, its cover worn smooth from handling. Sarah opened it carefully to the first page and saw the date, the 15th of September, 1952. Below it, in the same careful handwriting as the letters, were words that made Sarah's breath catch. Today I must make the hardest decision of my life. Sarah's hands trembled as she read Dorothy's first journal entry aloud to Mike. William ships out to Korea tomorrow morning. I wanted to tell him about the baby tonight, but his mother's words keep echoing in my mind. A girl like you will never be suitable for our son. She made it clear that my Irish Catholic background and my family's poverty make me an unacceptable match. If William knew about the child, he might refuse to go, might throw away his future for us. I cannot be responsible for destroying his life. The journal entries painted a picture of a young woman trapped by the social conventions of 1952. Dorothy had been 18, working as a seamstress in town, when she fell in love with William Ashford, the son of Millbrook's wealthiest family. Their secret romance had lasted only 6 months before William received his draft notice for the Korean War. The 20th of September, 1952. I received the telegram today. William was killed in action just 3 weeks after arriving in Korea. He died never knowing about our baby, never knowing how much I loved him. His mother came to see me, warning me never to speak of my relationship with her son. She said it would tarnish his memory and disgrace his family name. I promised to keep our secret. Sarah turned page after page, following Dorothy's journey through pregnancy alone. The young woman had continued working until she couldn't hide her condition anymore, then retreated to this house that her parents had left her. She documented every day, every feeling, every fear about the future. The 8th of December, 1952. Elizabeth was born today at 3:17 a.m. She has William's eyes and my stubborn chin. She's perfect, absolutely perfect. But I have no money, no support, no way to provide for her. William's family has made it clear they want nothing to do with either of us. Tomorrow, I must take her to the Sisters of Mercy orphanage. Sister Catherine promises they'll find her a good family, people who can give her everything I cannot. The most heartbreaking entries came after Dorothy gave up her daughter. She returned to work, saving every penny while writing letters to William, as if he could somehow still read them. The letters were her way of processing grief, sharing news about their daughter she would never see grow up, describing the life they might have had together. The 15th of March, 1955. I walked past the playground today and saw a little girl with dark curls, like Elizabeth would have. She was laughing on the swings, and for a moment, I let myself imagine. I come to this room every night and write to William about our daughter. Sometimes I pretend he can hear me, that somewhere he knows how much we both loved her. The journal continued for decades. Dorothy never married, never had other children. She devoted her life to her work and to this secret shrine where she preserved the memory of her lost love and lost child. Every few years, she would try to find information about Elizabeth through the adoption agency, but the records were sealed. The breakthrough came in 1995. I finally found her. Elizabeth Thompson, married with 2 children. But I was too late. She died in a car accident last month. She was 43 years old and never knew I existed. Her children, Michael and Jennifer, are teenagers now. They don't know they have a grandmother who has loved them from afar their entire lives. I don't know if I should contact them. What right do I have to disrupt their lives with the truth? The final entries, written just months before Dorothy's death, revealed the depth of her regret. I spent 70 years loving people I lost, protecting a secret that only brought pain. I kept this room as a shrine to love and loss, but maybe it's time someone else knew the truth. I'm leaving everything to Elizabeth's children in my will, including this house. When they find this room, they'll understand why I never reached out. They'll know they were loved. Sarah spent the rest of that day in the hidden room, reading every letter, every journal entry, absorbing Dorothy's decades of pain and love. But one detail haunted her. Dorothy had mentioned that Elizabeth had 2 children, Michael and Jennifer, who would now be adults. They had grown up never knowing their biological grandmother had spent 70 years loving them from afar. That evening, Sarah began her research. Through online records and social media, she discovered that Elizabeth's children were Michael Thompson, now 34 and working as a high school history teacher, and Jennifer Thompson Martinez, 31, a nurse at Hartford Hospital. Both lived within 50 miles of Millbrook, close enough that Dorothy could have watched them grow up from a distance. Sarah's hands shook as she dialed Michael's number. When he answered, she took a deep breath and said, "My name is Sarah Chen. I bought a house on Maple Street in Millbrook, and I've discovered something that I think you need to know about your family." The phone went silent for a long moment. "Our mother never told us she was adopted," Michael finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "We always wondered why she had no baby pictures, why she never talked about her childhood. She said her parents died when she was very young, and she didn't like remembering." 3 days later, Michael and Jennifer stood in Dorothy's hidden room with their own children, Dorothy's great-grandchildren, who would finally learn about the grandmother who had loved them before they were even born. Sarah had carefully preserved everything exactly as Dorothy had left it. Jennifer picked up one of the letters to William, tears streaming down her face as she read aloud. "I dream of teaching our daughter to bake cookies, showing her how to sew a straight seam, braiding her hair for school dances. I wonder if she'll have your sense of humor or my terrible singing voice." "Mom loved to bake," Jennifer whispered. "She taught me to sew when I was 7, and she always braided my hair exactly the way Dorothy describes here." Michael discovered something Sarah had missed, a small envelope marked for Elizabeth's children tucked behind the journal. Inside was a hand-drawn family tree going back 5 generations, copies of William's actual letters from Korea that Dorothy had somehow obtained, and a bank account number with a current balance of exactly $180,000, the amount Sarah had paid for the house. The estate lawyer confirmed what they suspected. Dorothy had left everything to Elizabeth's children, with specific instructions that they were only to learn about the inheritance after someone discovered the hidden room. She had orchestrated her own revelation, ensuring that her family's story would eventually be told. She spent 70 years saving for grandchildren she never met, the lawyer explained. Every penny she earned as a seamstress went into that account, along with the money from selling her parents' jewelry and William's family heirlooms that his mother had secretly given her after his death. Today, Michael and Jennifer own the house on Maple Street. They've restored Dorothy's hidden room as a family memorial, complete with her letters, photographs, and journal. Their children visit regularly, bringing flowers for the grandmother they call Grandma Dorothy, and learning about the power of love that transcends time, death, and decades of separation. The room that began as a shrine to loss has become a celebration of found family. Dorothy's great-grandchildren have added their own photos to the collection, and they've started their own tradition of writing letters to Dorothy, telling her about their lives, and thanking her for the love she preserved for them across 7 decades. Sarah still lives next door in the cottage she bought with Dorothy's blessing, serving as the unofficial guardian of the family story. She often says that she didn't just buy a house, she became the keeper of a love story that refused to be forgotten.